Yeah. Okay.
We'll see if there's an echo. If there's an echo, I'll put them on.
Well, I'll tell you. Good. First of all, welcome everybody. Welcome Sharon, Julie, William. Good afternoon, Mr. Cozy. How are you today?
Hello, everybody.
William. Right, that's it. I'm off. Okay. We'll catch you later.
Oh, that's funny that William brings up Ripper, folks. I'm gonna be uploading a video after I'm done here with Paul about Sheriff Boswell and the sheriff's race there in Hillsborough County. It's all having to do with pursuing justice for Don Lewis, the ex-husband of Carol Baskin, who you will know from the Tiger King. So, since William brought up Ripper, I just wanted to say that I'll be uploading a video basically where Charles Boswell is proving a bunch of statements that Chad Chronister is making through his campaign team, and he's actually doing the fact checking on it and proving his statements false. So I'm going to be doing it. You'll be able to watch my video where we show that. Encourage everybody to show some support to Charles Boswell. He can use it because he doesn't have the kind of funds that Chronister has campaign wise. So he Charles Boswell is big about saying no donation is too small. So if you can help him out in any way, please do. All right. Sorry about that, dude. Go ahead.
I thought his name was Bootwell.
Boswell,
not Bootwell.
Yep. Here, let me. I'll screen share with you here.
Okay. No, I what made me think his name was Bootwell? Because of course I'm thinking Carmen Bootwell.
Must be, yeah.
In Manitoba. No, dude, I'll take your word for it. No, I was asking you how it's going.
It's good. I don't know.
What have you been up to this last week?
A few things. Well, for those of you over on my channel, I mean, I've been putting up all week videos about Daniel Holtzclaw. And there'll be another one today around 5:00. The last video in the series about the Holtzclaw investigation. That's been happening this week. Aside from that, I've been having a lot of conversations with the folks at Eagle Nation, starting to line up my trip to Wisconsin and what we're going to do while I'm there. We're planning, I don't know, I may be ambitious here, but I am planning a film. I'm actually trying to plan it to be a more of a cinematic thing than than you normally see on my channel, where I just get on and spit it at you. I'm going to be trying to take a more documentarian approach to it. So we'll see how that all works out, but been working with them and talking with them about wanting to line up the hostages and how I want to shoot things and what we're going to do while we're there in terms of protest, to just try to get some more attention. We're hoping there won't be snow, because if there's no snow.
Did you just say shooting hostages?
I did not.
Oh, no, shooting film with a hostage.
Of course,
yes. Yeah. Okay, sorry. You had me wondering.
Yeah, I don't have a weapon. I don't own a gun, so.
Good. Oh, well, you've got your dancing. Oh, that's some weapon. By the way, thanks, dude. I found your singleton. Very nice.
My singleton? Yeah, that's good stuff.
Thank you very much. Yeah, good stuff.
I'm still attached to McAllen, so.
Dude, rewind further back than your Holtzclaw stuff. You had a chat with the HUD.
Yes.
How did that go?
That was great. I love talking to Mark.
Yeah.
And him and I were talking about a few things. Obviously, we were talking about what goes on in the lulls when the case, hits a point where there's not a whole lot happening and it becomes less exciting. But we were talking about how it's important to keep the pressure on in those times, because the agents of the state are praying for these times. They're praying for times like this because they're hoping people will lose interest and it'll all just dissolve and go away. That's what they hope. So it's important not to allow them to have that ray of hope and keep the pressure on. So we were talking about that. We talked about the upcoming event we're planning for October, the beginning of October. The wrongful conviction streaming event. I'll be live with Jason Strong tomorrow morning, folks. I'll be there to be there for that, because I'm going to probably be talking a little bit about coordinating with Jason and the Innocence Project in the little live stream thing they're going to be doing. But they're going to be doing theirs, I guess, on Friday, which is actually wrongful conviction day. And so they're going to be doing it on that Friday. We're looking to probably take Saturday. and do 24 hours following after them.
Are they planning on doing 24
obviously
hours?
I want to be able to watch their content, so
Yeah.
I wouldn't want to be stepping on them. So, you know.
Sure. Are they going to be doing 24 hours?
I'm sorry?
Are they doing a 24-hour wrongful conviction-a-thon?
That's what I'm hearing, anyways. At this
right.
point.
Because I know I can assure them from a host of 2 previous 48-hour live events, doing 24 hours, you probably want people in different countries to contribute.
It's well, I don't know what they would want, so you know. But I imagine they're going to be organizing it with possibly with actual exonerees, hosting for a time. I don't know exactly what their plans are, but that's their thing to do. It's their thing.
It's interesting, isn't it, that they've copied, in effect, our idea.
Well, they took a page from us, sure.
Yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
and that's nice. I mean,
listen, imitation.
And I think it's a good thing that it's catching on, because this is going to be something that people can do in terms of any cause that they're involved with, but it gives a place for people to get together and have an open discussion about it.
Yeah.
And
imitation is the greatest form of flattery, is it not?
I don't know. You're wanting to I don't know, I guess get some prestige from it. I don't really care. I'm glad. I'm happy that they're using the idea. Don't get me wrong, but I don't want to sit here and try to strut like cock of the walk or something. It's just not me. So
what? That is somewhat disingenuous. I've seen you strutting your stuff, dude.
See, I recognize it as a compliment. It's just like I said, Paul. Yeah. Paul was looking for me to get up and put my peacock feathers and try to like act like whatever. I mean, it's just not that. But I'm very, very, very honored that they were watching what we were doing and thought it was good. And thought that it would be a good idea for them to try, and I hope it's a success. Yes. And I want to help them make it a success. So
absolutely. Absolutely. I actually got in touch with. I sent a message to the guy Fabricant, but I haven't heard anything back. But he read my message, so that's a good thing.
Right.
But no, I was going to, from my point of view, I'll tell you what's new. I've got a new microphone. So I just wondered if you can notice the difference.
You sound pretty good.
Yeah. It's one of these little lapel mics that fit onto the. Oh yeah. Yeah. So so that's my new toy. Along with, I've been really busy fitting up these solar lights in the garden.
Right.
Yeah. We got a message from air traffic control saying that we had to turn them off because overhead pilots were getting confused with our garden.
I commented on that already, right? That seems like catering.
Edinburgh.
That seems like catering there.
So you had Mark on, and then I think it was it Saturday or Sunday that I was involved in the chat with you and Travis and Mitch.
Those are yes, we recorded that on Saturday.
Yes.
Saturday. Yeah. We recorded that on Saturday, and I was putting it out day at a time. I split it into 6 parts.
I'm not surprised.
It ended up being almost 2 hours when I'd spliced in all the things that I had to splice in. So the thing ended up being over 2 hours, almost 2 hours and 30 minutes. And I'm like, okay, I got to break this up. So that's when I started breaking it up. So, and made it a 6-parter. So the last part will be today, which I also have to get to work on because I was working on the Charles Boswell video all morning. I now need to go over and I just got to pull that 6th segment, put my bumpers on, process it, and upload it. But it still will take me about 45 minutes to do those things. So
wow. And I noticed yesterday you had the fellow Dan Crane on.
Yes, that was awesome talking to Dan. I mean, I've seen him on Andrew Whitehead's channel, but it was a pleasure to get to speak with him personally. He's a very nice guy. He's no nonsense. My favorite part about that interview, I swear, this is my favorite part about that interview. It was when I was asking him, I go, well, basically the prosecution isn't being as careful as you are. And it's funny because you see him processing the question and he's kind of going like, I wouldn't put it that way. Like the look on his face, I wouldn't put it that way. And then he goes into it. He goes, well, yeah, you're right. They're not being as careful as I am. He goes, but you got to understand, I don't look at it as I'm being careful. He goes, I'm just following the scientific method, which is rigorous and this and that. And he goes, and this was the line that I love the best. This was the main line. He goes, I'm not expending any energy trying to be objective. In other words, he's just objective by default.
yeah, absolutely. And of course, one of the things I feel that they have to be, it was a little bit like the conversation we had with Travis about, isn't it a shame how often in so many cases, when it comes to this ineffective assistance of counsel, it does boil down to the lack of calling of experts, one expert to contradict another expert, when you think, for goodness sake, if you've got an expert, they should be able to give you a definitive answer. There shouldn't be this sort of conflict between one expert and another. You know, if an expert's going to give testimony, you would want him to give expert testimony, genuine expert testimony, whether it favors the defense or the prosecution. You know, so be it. Whichever way the evidence points, let it point that way. You know, but. You know, I often remember when I was first watching Making a Murder, and that's one of the things I was thinking. When are we going to get the experts to come along and say, "There's no way that those bones would be in that state after just a bonfire"?
Right. Well, we got one guy saying that.
Well, yeah, but not. But well,
you're looking for a consensus to come forward. It'd be nice. I'd like to see it too. But it's like. That's the weird thing, right? People are reluctant, you know. I guess maybe it's the fact that they're not omniscient and they weren't there October 31st.
Yeah.
Of 2007. So
But no, it does seem a shame, doesn't it, that these experts, that they could be called for the defense or for the prosecution, and you know, they have to exercise this kind of caution in not criticizing one side or the other, when in some cases they are more than deserving of the criticism that they get.
Mm-hmm. Well, certainly experts like Mike West favor one side over the other, I would say.
Him and that Steve Haining, they used to go out and advertise in police journals.
Yeah.
They used to put big adverts in police journals boasting about the number of convictions they would help a sheriff's department to get.
Yeah.
It was basically advertising for themselves, saying, hire us. We have got, well, particularly Mike West with his special analysis using the ultraviolet light. He'll find you evidence that nobody else can find. And he can't explain it to anybody else because nobody else would understand it.
Right.
Yeah.
Only his divine intuition can,
learns it off the ancient Chinese, you know, when he was aboard in China, like some sort of what was
but even none of them can do it. Only him.
Yeah, Mike Carradine in Kung Fu. You remember the early episode of Kung Fu? Glasshopper, you know, he went and he got the arms marked with the, you know, and he could walk on rice paper, you know, and not leave a single footprint, you know. Oh dear, you know. Anyway, we're digressing. So tell us a little bit about this lull. What do you?
Well, it's one of the reasons why I'm going to Wisconsin to stir things up, because I know that probably over the next few months there's not going to be much. I don't expect the decision from the appeals court to come very quickly. I honestly, 6 months at the earliest is my opinion of when we'll see something from them. So it's like I say, that's why the floor is lava came up in my mind of trying to do maybe something like that and getting on season 2 of that. Any little thing for Avery and Dassey supporters to look to point to help continue to create and keep the heat on, even at times when the case is not exactly in a state of, activity, I guess you might say, because right now we're just awaiting a decision. And that decision's probably not going to come super quick. So it's important to find ways to support and keep the support up and keep the energy up, and essentially what I'm trying to do.
Yeah. when you go to Wisconsin, like I said to you, I'm not worried about the cold. I think you can handle the cold. You can put on layers of clothing. But have you ever driven in snow?
Yes, we have here in Southern California. We do have a place nearby that has snow, and recently got stuck in snow up there. So I know enough now that I know enough now. I'm still not as sure-footed as a mountain goat, as you might say, but I've had enough experience to respect the snow and know that it's dangerous and know, how easy it is to go wrong. So I have an appreciation for how dangerous it is. So.
Well, honestly, I would suggest getting something a little bit bigger, like an SUV with 4-wheel drive.
Yeah,
just to be on the safe side. But what I would say is, from experience, I mean, the Scottish climate and the Wisconsin climate, very, very similar. Maybe our summers aren't quite as hot. Maybe our winters aren't quite so bad. But I've seen it snowing as early as November. I don't know that I've ever seen it snowing at late October, but I have certainly seen snow as late as April. So we do get snow. I would say that the big problem is not driving in snow. Driving in snow is actually quite good, because if you've got 4-wheel drive, you can drive through the snow. The problem, and slush and ice, is braking and steering. A lot of people think that because they've got four-wheel drive, they can go anywhere, and they just drive like normal. And of course, when they hit the brakes, the brakes just lock and you just
slide on the black ice. Right.
Yes. Yeah. So that's where I would say, just to be careful.
Well, I intend to. Everybody's saying, a lot of people are saying that percentages are that there won't be any snow at that time.
Oh, okay.
That's what they're saying. But they're not saying it's unheard of, but they're saying it's highly unlikely. So, they don't often, it doesn't often get snow. But it's like I say, I was talking to Steve Arado, for instance, and we were talking, and he was like, if there's no snow, like as if it is a possibility, he goes, if there's no snow, we're going to have all kinds of bikers for the protest that, when we go and whatever, and they'll be riding, with us and stuff. And I was like, cool. He goes, if there's snow, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
So,
no.
So, but he was like, but there's most likely not going to be snow. So, and that's what everybody's been saying, but there's clearly some small percentage of a chance that there might be. But we'll have to see.
Yeah. As Sharon points out.
William, there's one more today. Sorry. I also posted another one last night, William, about Tabitha Barnes. You might find very interesting.
Oh, dude, I find them all interesting. Yeah, I didn't feel the cold in Manitowoc the way that everybody else was complaining about it. For me, it was just like normal temperature. But
dude, I was dying that night of the party because inside that little room where the party was happening, the hotel had it super hot, right?
Oh, right.
So it was like way hot, and so for me, I would go in there. And after about a minute or two, I would suddenly be just like dying, starting to sweat, and all that, and going, fuck. And then I would step outside and go outside to kind of cool off. And I'd be out there for like 30 seconds. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, flip, I'm freezing. And I was struggling that night of the party. That was crazy, dude, because it was so hot inside and so cold outside. I couldn't find a happy medium. It was just like, I struggled with it.
Sure. Okay. No, talking about lulls, one of the things that this is nice of William. He points out that, yes, I did have a video with the man in Shetland, somebody that I've known since I was, I was 18, and I think Peter was probably about 17 at the time, so we've known each other a long, long time. What's interesting is that I've contacted one or two people, so I've filled up like the schedule for the next 4 weeks of doing these live chats with Scottish musicians. Mm-hmm. But I've actually spoken to or sent messages to a few other people. There was one a really nice lad who said, "Look, please don't. I'm sorry, I'm not gonna come on. Nobody would be interested in what I've got to say, you know. And I said, oh no, don't be like that. I said, but in actual fact, my sort of channel grew purely as a result of Making the Murderer. Have you heard of it? Mm-hmm. And he said, heard of it? Yeah, I watched it. I've watched the whole of Making a Murderer. Has it not been sorted out by now? You know, surely it's been sorted out by now. Surely it's all done and dusted.
You would hope, you would think.
Yeah. So I thought that was great to get that from Andy. So how close are we then to getting it all done and dusted, in your humble opinion?
Oh, geez. It's hard to say. I mean, we're going to have to see what the Court of Appeals does here. I guess it comes down, for me, is the Court of Appeals going to recognize judicial estoppel?
Yeah.
If they recognize judicial estoppel,
mm-hmm.
then that means there needs to be an evidentiary hearing.
Yep.
Zellner then needs to get access to all the things that were previously agreed, or whatever. I mean, basically, there's that end of it, at least. That's what the judicial estoppel opens up, is it opens up all the arguments that the state is trying to procedurally bar. And then we have the bones. I mean, for me, that's the big one, because that's where the state overstepped. And they actually said we didn't violate statute, because even if we did give it those bones back, they were just animal bones. And it's like, okay, now you're saying you gave the grieving family animal bones. So, of course, this is troubling. So, for me, one of these two issues, well, those are the two main issues, because number one, judicial estoppel opens the door to a lot of her claims so that they can't be procedurally barred. And then you have those bones and the state's clear dishonesty in the way that they're dealing with those bones, the way they have dealt with those bones, the way that they were hiding what they were doing. It's clear that they were hiding what they were doing. All these things, that enough shows sinister intent, or bad faith, as they put it, in my opinion. Just the way they were hiding it.
Yeah, for me, what's interesting is the speed at which Judge Sukovich came forward with her decision to shut shut it down within a couple of days of Fallon saying to Zellner, I will get in touch with Calumet and get sorted out about getting access to the RAV4. I find that most telling of all. I mean, if Calumet County have to produce the RAV4, if it's still there,
right.
You must
have
been
taking almost 2 months to produce it, right?
Yeah. I mean, why, you must have noticed.
It took 2 months, and they couldn't even, they couldn't have found out that they were going to have it on a certain date and sent some paperwork to the court, say, before 2 months later when the decision came through. I mean, it's like it took them 2 months and nothing. They know nothing else. The RAV4 wasn't able to get to Calumet. What was going on? I mean, it's 2 months. It's not like this car is coming from Pluto. You know what I mean? It's like this car is in state. How the hell is this taking 2 months and nothing gets sent to the court as was agreed? I mean, that's all fishy to me. What games they were playing, and is the RAV4 there? I mean, I think that's why a lot of people out there ask whether, or say they don't believe the RAV4 is even around anymore because of that.
Yeah.
I mean,
they when they handed back the bones, maybe they just assumed, well, that's it. We can just be done with this case,
Yeah.
Although, having said that, fair enough. They did hand, what was it, about 9? They handed 9 pieces of evidence over to
that
Zellner.
was originally agreed. Yes, right. That's what the post-conviction motion is based on, is that evidence. But then before Judge Sukovich made her decision, Zellner was already arranging with the state to test more things that had all been agreed. And it was, you see, it was all being organized. But if you remember, Zellner says in her letter that she writes to Judge Sukovich at one point that she had talked to the state and that they were arranging to do things, that they were arranging to do testing and stuff. And she said, I asked Tom Fallon if I should send something, or at some point in one of her filings, she asked Tom Fallon if she should send something to the court or whatever. And he says, no, that's all right. Once we work out the logistics of the RAV, we'll send something to the court. So that's why I was just making the point I was making. Mm-hmm. What the hell happened for 2 months? Mm-hmm. You know, if all it took was working out the logistics of the RAV, that's all that was standing in the way of Fallon sending over something to the court. Where's the RAV? What's going on there? Why did it take 2 months? You know, anyway. You having fun?
Thank you, William. Yeah, thank you. Now then, dude, I've got some more questions for you.
Oh, do you now?
Yeah, these are the ones I never got to get to on Saturday, and also when you started speaking with Dan Crane, you started off by saying that there was either a minuscule or a microscopic or whatever it was. The amount of DNA that found on Daniel's Holtzclaw was, I think it was like a millionth of a gram.
Well, it's very small amounts. It's trace amounts. They also found DNA profiles of, I believe I said in the video it's 4, but it's actually 2 other people.
Right. Yeah.
They found DNA of 2 other people, one of them being male.
Yeah. Which you would be by just normal day-to-day contacting, as you say. You know, I mean, it could well be DNA that he's got picked up from searching through some lady's handbag, and it could be transferred DNA on the stuff that's actually in the handbag, and then he's got it. So he could get bloke's DNA through having no contact in whatsoever, and the suspect that he stopped by searching her handbag. It's easy enough for that DNA, but I just wondered if we know exactly how small is this minute. I heard it was like one cell or something.
Well, it was a trace amount. It's going to be measured in nanograms per liter or whatever. That's pretty much the normal. I can't remember what the exact number is from the DNA report, but I'll have that number soon. But the point is, it's all trace, which means it's going to be in the neighborhood of like what they were getting off of the hood latch. It's going to be in that neighborhood. So,
but you mentioned hood latch, and that was going to be my next question, is the fact that similarly to how supposedly Teresa's RAV4 hood latch was swabbed, and they found this humongous amount of DNA on the hood latch, and yet they never swabbed anywhere else. Same with Daniel. They only test.
Not swabbing pockets. Right. You're right.
It just struck me. You know, that's incredible. I mean, you know, so this kind of inept police work doesn't just go on in Wisconsin. It goes on everywhere where they want a wrongful conviction. Is that right?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Oh, okay. I will say that area of Wisconsin is a little bit more inclined to that kind of stuff, in my opinion, judging by what happened in Nina and Ricky Hochstetler and many other things that I've seen there. But no, yeah, it does. Occasionally bad cops crop up everywhere. And in this case, we had Detective Musney, Gregory, and Davis. Mm-hmm. But even they may have been under some pressure from higher up.
Okay. Another question. One of the bizarre things that I did, just out of curiosity, was I did a comparison of the you know at the beginning of Zellner's response. Well, sorry, we had the state's response and Zellner's reply. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the state at the beginning of their response, they actually list all the cases that they cite, and it came to 89. Right. And in the previous motion by Zellner, she lists 91 cases. And then in this reply, Kathleen Zellner also responds with another, I think it was 50-odd cases. And I believe I'm right in saying there was about 22 or 24 occasions where the state and Zellner cite the same case. Do you think that's something that the appeals court judge is going to have to take some time overlooking and actually reviewing all the cases that are mentioned?
Well, as appellate judges, they're probably well aware
of these cases,
90% of those cases, and have studied them and know them backwards and forwards.
Okay.
Especially if it's the case law that generally applies in their jurisdiction.
Right. Okay.
So where they may need to, there may be about 10% of it though that are going to be obscure, maybe, and they may have to go and look into it a little bit. You know.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Fair enough. Now, I'll save that for later. I've got another question.
Mm-hmm.
That'll come later. Right. First of all, I wanted to ask you about a tweet by Sandy, where she said, "What if that the minivan had never been for sale?"
Right.
Yeah.
Well, what if? I mean, yeah, a lot of problems would have been avoided here, or would they? Would they have just not cropped up some other way later? Who knows? What
for you?
It's hard to say when you have a county and a city and everything so hell bent on hating one man, so or family.
I got a question, so I was just
right. Is that order in the court? Order. Oh. Do it like the old speaker in Parliament. Order.
Hors d'oeuvre. What do you think it was that motivated the sheriff department to frame Stephen? Because I don't care who it was that actually in effect did the dirty deed. The fact is, the dirty deed was done for the benefit of Manitowoc Sheriff's Department, right?
Right.
What was it that they were specifically afraid of? Was it the money?
So you're referring to 2007.
Well, yeah, 2005.
Okay.
Yeah. Was it the money?
Well,
yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah.
2007, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So obviously, yes, that all stems from what happened in 1985. So obviously, yes, Manitowoc was sitting there with egg on their face. I think the interesting thing here and why the state ends up having to kind of go along with this in the end is because Peg Lautenschlager whitewashed it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Well, now other things have come out that have shown that Michael Griesbach and Mark Rohrer were dishonest, held back information about Andy taking the call in 1996, and all that kind of stuff. And so once you see that, there's issues there. It's, that once you start seeing that type of stuff, there's problems. I mean, it's just, I don't know. It's
what I'm going to suggest though is that it wasn't so much the money; it was the fact that there was going to be this huge look at not only Peg Lautenschlager's investigators going in and finding nothing wrong when there was clearly huge things that were wrong, whether or not Peg's office were given all the information by Rohrer and Griesbach. That's an interesting question. It doesn't appear to be the case, but surely if Stephen Avery had been successful, then there would not have been some sort of investigation into what the dickens was going on in Manitowoc, and that's when the people involved, they did not want investigators coming in and investigating them and finding out what had been going on.
Sure.
That to me seems to be the,
it's like I said. I mean, with all that whitewashing, with everything, all the dishonesty that was clearly there in '85, that's how the state ended up being stuck, going along and trying to revilify Stephen Avery. That was their motive, because they knew it was a huge problem and a huge. I mean, they had egg on their face, and revilifying Stephen Avery was the best way to get it all back to going away. And
Well,
they certainly didn't expect 2 film students to come along and blow the lid off of it.
That's right. So going forward, once we get the evidentiary hearing, if the RAV4 appears, if it doesn't, if we get the RAV4, we can do a test. Well, we, as in Kathleen Zellner, can do a test, particularly on the blood stain at the back of the RAV4, because I know that our friend in Adelaide is particularly interested. Obviously, we all are, but has been saying for a long time, if we find out whose blood that is, whose bloody handprint that is on the back of the RAV4, you've always said to me,
Right.
on more than one occasion that, murdering something is murdering somebody in a violent way is violent, and therefore the chances are you yourself might end up, cutting yourself,
Hurting yourself. Right. You will, because most knives don't have a guard on them. Like a butcher knife from a kitchen doesn't have a guard on it. So when you stab it into somebody and then you hit bone, the knife stops, but your hand doesn't stop so quickly. And so you end up, what'll happen is you'll get like this cut from the blade that comes like halfway into your hand, because your hand will have slipped onto the blade. So that's something that happens commonly because, like I said, the knives we use in our homes and stuff don't have that kind of guard on them. And you end up injuring yourself. But not only that, even if you're just using your fists or some kind of blunt object, as you're swinging fists or the object around and you're causing the person to bleed, you're flinging that stuff around, most likely getting it on yourself. You're going to leave. There's going to be evidence of what you did, but it's
just interesting, isn't it, that this blood stain, although Ken Kratz tried to say at trial that it was a bloody handprint from Stephen Avery, and Jerry was like, what?
Yeah, he tried to say A23, right? Yeah.
And trying to do it in such a way that see this is another thing that really annoys me about this, is that a prosecutor like that can say what he likes, and even if then the judge says, even if the other side objects, it's like, well, okay, the comment, I believe the terminology is the comment is struck from the records.
Right.
But it's not struck from the minds of the jurors that have heard that.
Right. It's not. No, it's, you can't unring that bell, as they put
Exactly.
it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, I'll say I'm very much with our Milwaukee friend. To stop.
I agree. I mean, think about when this happened. It literally happened at just the right time to prevent Vogel and Kosarik from getting, deposed. And it wasn't going to go well. It was going to go just as badly as it had been going for everybody else.
Yeah.
So that's, awfully convenient.
Mm-hmm.
Awfully convenient.
Okay, finally, I'm not going to keep you much longer because I know you've got plenty to be getting on with. And believe it or not, we have nearly been chatting for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
Doesn't time fly when you're enjoying yourself, dude?
Yeah, well, normally I enjoy talking to you, so,
Okay, that's good.
Today's one of those days, so,
Okay.
Not hammering too strongly today or anything, so it's, it's other than the solar lights in the garden thing, it gets into some havering there, but anyway. So.
Yeah, okay. So I wanted to ask you about how things are looking. I mean, you've got, dare I say it, a thumb in the pie of lots of cases of wrongful convictions and things that are wrong. I mean, how many different cases are you kind of sort of actively following at the moment?
The ones I'm most fired up about at the moment are Avery Dassey, Scott Davis, Holtzclaw,
Michael Funk,
and Eagle Nation, and Michael Funk, Don Lewis.
Yeah,
I'm very interested in what's going on with Don Lewis from Tiger King. Mm-hmm. So I would say those 6 right now are probably pretty much the taking up my time, and they definitely are. I mean, I'm even having thoughts of how can I try to cut it back, because I can't keep up. I can't keep up the pace I'm going right now. It won't go well.
Oh dear. Okay, I do have one other question, and it kind of struck me that we've got people still, although you're saying there's a lull, we still get people.
There's plenty of people out there researching.
Yeah, but I'm going to say plenty of people. There's still one or two that still contact me from the guilty community, and it struck me that they're still hanging on to this, and I don't know why, but they're still trying to suggest that to them the evidence is still pointing towards Steve and Brendan, and we've got Judge Hamilton. I've just finished looking at his reviews of it, and I got to that famous line, of course, where he says that our job is not to take a look at the scholarly expertise at best practices, and of course in Making a Murderer, Kathleen Zellner says, well, why not? Why would you not want to do that?
Right.
And it struck me that I believe it was at the beginning of the week. Was it Monday? There was a youngster, well, a youngster younger than us. I think he was 30 years old, somewhere in America, who went deliberately to a COVID-19 party. Have you heard about this?
No.
This dude went to this COVID-19 party, which was organized by people to see who could contract the disease and survive it, because this guy was convinced that this whole COVID-19 was just propaganda, that it was just one big conspiracy to try and terrorize the country. And do you know what happened to him?
What happened?
Well, he died, didn't he? He died. And as his last words to the nurse were, I think I made a mistake.
Yeah.
And I can't help thinking that's exactly what Judge Hamilton's going to be left with.
Yeah, Judge Hamilton.
Because the way I see it, or the way I've been told it, is this. That obviously in Brendan's case, you had the trial and the judge was Fox.
Yeah.
Jerome Fox. And then you had the appeal. And the big problem is it's the same judge.
Right.
And so in order for the judge to decide on appeal that something was wrong about the initial trial, he's in effect got to say that there was something wrong with the way that I conducted my own trial 2 years previously.
Right.
I mean, what judge is ever going to say that?
They're not going to feel inclined to do that. No, you're right.
So then that was in 2009 when Brendan had his appeal, by which time Steve Drizzen and Laura Nyrider, well, I think particularly Steve Drizzen and possibly quite a young Laura Nyrider, were on board at that time, weren't they? Yeah, 2009. Yeah,
was it 2009 they came on? Okay.
Yeah, because I did notice that from being convicted in 2007 till the end of 2009, that's nearly 2.5 years.
Right.
It probably did take Steve and Laura that long to get the case, before an appeals court.
Right.
They end up obviously with Jerome Fox again. But then, of course, they go to William Duffin, who sees common sense. But the whole problem with EDPA was the fact that when it went to the Seventh Circuit hearing, the original hearing, in front of Hamilton, Williams and Rovner, the fact that he dissented, that was what, in effect, snookered everything. The fact that he, in effect, said that he was agreeing with Judge Fox in the appeal stage.
Yeah.
Have I got that bit right?
That's right. They can't overturn that. The federal court can't overturn that because of the ridiculously high bar set by AEDPA.
So ultimately, it was Hamilton that was the big problem in all of this. He's the one that I'm likening to the fella that says, "Oh, COVID-19 doesn't exist."
Why
and
not
then,
Judge
and
Easterbrook?
realizes,
Why not Judge Easterbrook, who didn't ask a single damn question?
Yeah, but
and then ended up voting wrong.
But had the decision gone 3-0, would they have got the on-bank hearing, or would they have just said, "Oh, we've lost 3-0"?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah, I guess that probably made the on-bank a little more likely, showing a disagreement by the judges. But I don't know. I mean, look at how the only one writing a decision is Hamilton. The other three judges can't seem to be bothered.
Yep.
And then look at the passion coming out of the two dissenting opinions.
Yeah, Williams and Rovner.
I mean, you know what I mean? It's just like, look at the passion coming out there. That diagram that Judge Wood makes, and I recently put it in a video, but I mean, that diagram she makes just lays it all out there. Like, this kid is innocent as the day is long. And it's like, and it's, what are you going to do?
Well, it's I mean, that Seth Waxman, that famous quote by him, nothing troubles me more than Brandon's case. And that is the fact that I know that not a single judge, not the original judge, the appeals judge, the federal judge, the Seventh Circuit judges, there is no judge, none of them think that Brendan is guilty.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But it's like they're having to go along with this sort of political pressure, if you like, of maintaining the status quo.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
It is.
And
anyway,
stand. I mean, eventually, this pressure is going to become uncomfortable for Wisconsin. That the entire world is looking at them like they're a bunch of dicks because of what they're doing to Brendan Dassey. Eventually, they're going to grow tired of that perception, and they're going to think, "Why are we doing this?" They're going to start looking at it themselves and going, "This is a freaking shit show." And then, you know what I mean? And then something's going to happen. But right now, it hasn't quite gotten to that level yet. So most people in Wisconsin are still apathetic.
Yeah. Okay. So I think we covered most of what you've been doing this week. Is you did the chat with Mark. You did obviously the chat with me and Mitch and Travis at the beginning of the week, and you've split that up to how many videos are you going to end up doing? Is there one more to come? Is there
tonight? Yep.
One more to look forward to. Excellent. And then tell us what else.
2.5 hours from now.
Yeah. Tell us what else we've got to look forward to, please, dude.
Jason Strong tomorrow, folks.
Jason
Exoneree Jason Strong tomorrow on my channel. So that's going to be at noon Central.
Mm-hmm. And you did want to talk about something else, didn't you?
Yeah. But I want to address Neil Young here real quick. So Neil asked, do you think there will be time instead of campaigning individual cases of wrongful convictions cases, a full campaign on change for the legal system as a whole? Right.
It's happening.
Well, so that's exactly what you're seeing happen, Neil. And unfortunately, you're seeing a necessary evil of it. People get interested in the case they get interested in. So they're passionate about that case, and that case introduces them to what's going on in our criminal justice system and what wrongful convictions are, and how actually they're more common than we all might have thought. And so we become aware of those things. But here's the problem. When we get our first pet case, generally it's one that's complicated. I mean, just look at all the ones that have been popular. Serial, Casey Anthony, things that have a lot of, Melissa Kaluzinski, things that have a lot of things to look at and argue about. And I mean, so you got to understand those cases draw a lot of attention because there's just a lot of complexity. But, it's these people all, they put it another way. When I got involved with Making a Murderer, I was overwhelmed with how much information there was to absorb. And I know that still exists because when I started going live after MAM2 came out, second season, and I started going live every day, and there was new people showing up, and I could see those people feeling the same way, getting overwhelmed just by the amount of information. But watching those people dig in and watching them gain confidence and become more confident as they went along. But here's the thing: when we're digging in our pet case, if we have a feeling of loyalty to that first case, it's hard. It's hard for us to look outside of it. It took a long time before I was willing to take on Scott Davis, which would have been the second case I decided to look into. It was a long time before that happened, at least a year after I had watched Making a Murderer. It probably was longer. It was probably more like 14 to 16 months after but I wasn't willing to accept another case. I couldn't go down another rabbit hole. Like, I was reluctant, and I know other people feel that way. And so that's the problem we face. So it's a necessary evil. I got to work with the Amanda Knox people, and the people that support her. I got to work with, because I believe Daniel Holtzclaw has been railroaded, or at least he has all the earmarks of a wrongful conviction. I'm going to work with the Holtzclaw folks and the supporters of Holtzclaw. And I'm going to continue to try to bring these communities together and create some crossover in that sense, so that hopefully our voice does start to become more like one voice. And that's kind of where it is. It's tentative. It's tough. It's not an exact science. I can encourage people to do something, but I can't make them. And so that's kind of where we're at.
Mm. But I'm gonna suggest that you must be doing something right, because you're up over, is it 2 million views or 3 million views?
I probably have gone over 2 million views. I haven't checked in a while. Actually, let's take a look.
And you're up over 7,000 subscribers now.
Right.
Whereas when you first started, when I first started following, what sort of figures were you at then?
When you first started following?
When I first started contacting you, I think you were around about the 3,500.
Probably around, no, I don't even think I was that high.
Right?
No, I didn't get to 3,500 until after MAM2.
Yeah. And another question.
Back then, I would have been probably right around 1,200, because when MAM2 came out, I was somewhere around 1,500.
Okay. And also, sorry to drag this up every time, but since you wore the kilt to inspire other people to get up and do videos, how successful has that campaign been?
Well, I don't know. A lot of people eventually did get out there, like Millbilly over in the chat here, and the Dr. Silkmans and everybody over at Foul Play, like Big Jeff, and and the Linda K's, and everybody else that has gotten out there and gotten vocal and are talking about Avery Dassey now. And it's one of the reasons why I feel that I can now branch into other cases, because I feel like if I go and start digging in and digging into another case and creating awareness of another case, I don't feel like I'm abandoning Steve and Brendan now, because I got a lot of good people there that are keeping that content coming, so that people out there can continue to learn and everything about the case. So I actually feel a little bit more free to be able to try to do the thing I'm trying to encourage people to do, and that's actually, instead of talking the talk, I'm trying to walk the walk. And the fact that so many brilliant people have come out and have started creating content and commentary on it, I feel like I have the ability and freedom to do that now.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I must admit, when not long after I first started, I was invited by various people to take a look at both the Scott Davis case and also one that I think Casey Martinez is very keen on, is the David Thorne case.
Yes,
which also has.
She experienced the same thing when she started switching to David Thorne content. She experienced the same thing. The Making a Murderer crowd was kind of like, oh, hey, whoa, hey, you know what I mean? And
yeah,
I mean, so it's a natural reaction. So people are tied to their pet case, the one that brings them in, and you just got to wait. You got to let them go through their paces. for me, that's what it looks like anyway. I had to get through my paces. I had to get to grips with it. Then I was willing to look outside, so.
I must admit, although I did take a bit of interest, what scared me most of all, or worried me most of all, should I say, was how can I possibly give this case the kind of attention that I've given Stephen Brendan? I mean,
Right.
I mean, well, put it this way: nothing prior to making a murderer would have caused me ever to phone the sheriff of a county in Wisconsin. I couldn't care less about what goes on in Wisconsin until I had to watch Making a Murderer, and I saw exactly what the sheriff's department was doing there. And
you saw the cheese? Anyway, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, yeah, but what really annoyed me is this, right? I saw a thing the other day about. I sent you. Did I send you, or did you send me the link to it? It was to do with that that guy on a YouTube video I watched that was very interesting about a guy saying never ever talk to police.
Oh yes, I posted that yesterday.
Yeah, right.
That was brilliant, dude.
It was absolutely. The guy can talk. He's a really, really good talker.
Yeah, he does. He talks fast.
You definitely need to reach out to him and say, look, because he is just the kind of person to come on and do a chat with you. But you know what? What
was your big takeaway from it?
Was the fact that just going back to the fact that when it comes to the idea of not talking to the police, I'm quite happy to talk to police. I know lots of retired police. We talk about whiskey. We talk about beer. We talk about all the sorts of things that people like me in a certain environment get together and have.
Just don't assume that's going on when they come at you with accusations.
Exactly.
Don't assume that same thing's happening.
Exactly. But what struck me was that those clowns over there in Manitowoc are dragging the good reputation of the good cops down, and that's what really annoyed me.
Well, I agree.
I know policemen, retired and serving policemen, who are really, really good, really good fellas. I remember I saw a little video of a cop in America, a traffic cop, and he pulls over this car, and they've got a film crew with them, but he pulls over the car and he says to the woman winds the window down, and she's from the, and I hate this term, the African American community, but okay, they pull, and she's like really flustered as to why she's being pulled over, and the guy says, well, you do realize you've got 2 young kids in the back, Oh, well, yeah, he said, you do realize that on a hot day like this, they need ice lollies or ice creams, and produces 2 ice creams for the kids. There are policemen like that out there, they just want to serve the community. And when you've got the likes of Lenk and Colburn, who will go to the lengths that they will do to besmirch the good reputation of the good cops, that's what annoys me. That's what really annoyed me.
Yeah.
To the extent where I then had to get in touch with Herman and tell him exactly what I thought of him,
Right.
And in the end, he just stopped taking my phone calls. So
for me, I'm wondering. I mean, I just saw another clip today where a guy he got pulled over, and he was recording, and he was recording it, and the cop, I guess, was asking him to get out of the car. That guy wasn't getting out of the car. He was trying to whatever. But the funny thing is, well, it's not funny so much as the cop ends up losing his cool, and instead of just pulling this very scrawny guy, I mean, he wasn't exactly a really big dude, and like pulling out this scrawny guy, and you can hear what's going on, the scuffle, when they pull him from the car, because the guy's phone is sitting in the car still recording, and you can hear what this cop is saying. You can hear the guy saying, you can even hear the kid say, "Get off my throat." You know, I mean, it's like with what's just happened, why would any officer be doing that? I mean, with all the trouble that was just recently caused with an officer being on a man's throat, you know what I mean? Why the F would that be happening? And so it brings me to this: are the good cops of the world at some point going to clean up their ranks? And are you? It's up to you guys, because your little brotherhood and your little clink blue shield prevents us from doing anything about it. So are you going to do something about it? Because you got to get these cancerous people out. They are creating problems for our society. Huge, huge problems. It's up to you guys.
Well, I mean, I read an interesting article in the Post-Crescent. I think it was at the end of last week. And that was the fact that, and it was the guy, Andy Thompson, who covers the, obviously the Avery Dassey stuff, and apparently there has been in Wisconsin in the past, I think it's a couple of years, there have been lottery winners who haven't come forward and claimed their prize. And it's a good job that they don't, because so far there's something like 4 million in unclaimed lottery prizes. And apparently that money goes back into the community. And boy, are they going to need that money when Stephen and Brendan are set free. I mean, honestly, if you live in Wisconsin, don't go taking any of your lottery winnings, because the state are going to need that money. Seriously, they are going to need a whole heap of money to pay for the actions of a few. How often do we hear that? So many suffer because of the actions of one or two.
Right.
It's
like I say, that's why it's up to the good cops out there to start cleaning house and going, you know what, this is unacceptable. I'm tired of watching our country burn. This is unacceptable behavior. It's up to them to do it.
Oh, I've also got final bit of news. Did you watch Charlie Barron's video about him shooting his dad's minivan?
No.
You didn't see that?
No.
He had an accident.
I still need to watch Johnny or Ripper's most recent video about season 2 of Tiger King. So I'm a little behind.
Well, presumably they're going to do a season 2 of Tiger King because he was down there filming it, wasn't he?
Well, he was down there doing his thing.
Yeah.
Whether or not they're making him part of it or not, I don't know, but we'll see.
Well, hope so. Certainly hope so.
You would think so. So, but I mean, hey,
of course. But no, what this was that when he was just about to head over to LA to take up his role as in some film studio, they went hunting with his dad, his dad and some brothers. And when they finished hunting, they were meant to sort of make their weapons safe, make the guns safe. And as Charlie was getting his out the car, his brothers that hadn't been made safe, it had actually been primed.
Oh,
it went off. It went off. It blew the end of the case off. And had it been facing the other way, Charlie Barron's wouldn't be alive anymore. But it blew a big hole in the seat of one of the in one of the seats of the minivan. So he ended up having to buy it off his dad for the damage done to it, and he drove it to LA.
Right.
So I then said, asked him, when he went to LA, did he take the van and did he take Route 66?
Right.
Well, apparently he replied back, yes, I did drive all the way, but unfortunately there are big segments of Route 66 which are no longer there.
Right.
Of the original road, which are no longer in use. So when we do our Route 66, we're not going to be able to do. We're just going to have to do the best we can, I'm afraid.
You got to get an off-road vehicle. I'm sure you can still do it. There's just not going to be pavement.
I cannot imagine me ever trying to persuade unionists to start going off road with me. She did that once before. We had a really bad winter, really bad winter. And where I live, I'm sort of heading down towards the railway line. There's quite a steep hill that goes down, very steep hill, you see. And of course, in the middle of winter, it got to the stage where only 4x4s were out on the road. That that was all you ever saw, and so few cars, But any of this, one day we had to go to the shops, and in coming back, instead of coming back the normal way, instead of turning right, I turned left. And she's like, "Where are you going?" I said, "I'm going to go up this road to see if my 4x4 can go up this really steep hill in snow." And she was absolutely petrified. She was terrified, She was like, no. And I'm saying, yeah, I want to see what will happen. I want to see what. Well, of course, the car was fine. It sailed up the hill because it was on fresh snow. And as I say, when you're driving on fresh snow, no problem at all. It's braking and cornering. That's what you've got to be careful of because of the way. I mean, it wasn't a RAV4, I'm afraid. It was a Nissan X-Trail. I don't know if you have the same vehicle in
X-Trail. No,
X-Trail.
We have Xterras.
It's probably the same car, simply with a different name. They tend to adjust the name slightly, don't they?
Right. Better for the European market versus the American market.
Yeah. Yeah. Although,
which brings me to something funny to finish.
Go on, come on.
So, I've been watching Beastmaster, folks. I think it would be freaking hilarious if we all got together and did like a watch party somehow of that show, because it's basically where it brings together a bunch of competitors from around the world, brings them to this arena called the Beast, and it's basically it's like an outdoor arena where there's this structure built that looks a lot like a cross between a puma and a dragon, basically. And it's got ribs, or whatever, and you see like the joints where its shoulders and legs are and everything. But underneath the Beast is basically an arena. There's a big lake or pool, you might say there, and there's a bunch of obstacles and various very difficult tasks and stuff that hang over this water, and you have to it's like the floor is lava times 1,000. You know what I mean? It's just everything is more difficult. Everything is more difficult. You got all of these very, very hard tasks, things you have to jump from and to that, and it's all about beating the Beast. It's all about, don't let the Beast beat you. And so you're going through so they name the things, like when you first enter the Beast, they have the grinder. That's essentially supposed to be like teeth, right? The grinder. So you're entering the Beast's mouth. There's one part where they call it the spine, where you gotta come down this thing of ropes and everything that are all intertwined, and they call it the spine. There's another one they call the intestinal tract, where it's like a little tube you got to crawl up and everything. Anyway, it's a lot of very difficult things. Seriously, I could not do it. There's no way I'd be able to do it. I'd have to train for probably 5 years straight to even have a chance at being able to do this. But it's interesting to watch these other athletes. But what's really cool about this show is that each country that's represented has these they're basically like commentators. So you'll get 2 commentators from each host nation, and the commentators are like the comic relief from the competition. It's brilliantly done. It's produced by Sylvester Stallone. For those of you who are fans of Sly, so it's executively produced by him, but it's a brilliant show. I just want to get together with a bunch of people, supporters and stuff from around the world, to watch the countries compete and have a little fun, in that sense, if possible, just because I'm telling you, folks, there is a lot of funny stuff that goes on between the hosts, the commentators. They kind of crash each other's booths and like play little pranks on each other. Sometimes the hosts do something funny, like go and get dressed in an outfit, like a competitor outfit, and they try to go out on the course and do something that a lot of competitors failed at one thing, and the host feels like they can do it. They'll go and get dressed and try to go do it, and it's hilarious. Anyways, so it's just a funny show, but also it's amazing to watch some of these athletes. So it has really two aspects that grab me. I love humor, and I love watching really, really, really good athletes compete, and it definitely has both of those things. So,
well, I can't say that I have watched it, but then I did start watching the what was the latest thing that started on Netflix? The
Athlete A.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Oh,
That was
Unsolved
it.
Mysteries.
Unsolved Mysteries.
Which Sharon
yes.
and I will be talking about Sunday morning, episode 2. We talked about episode 1 last Sunday.
Yeah, episode 2. Remind us who's in that. It's the
that's the mom, the hairdresser that disappears from her shop.
Oh yes,
right. So
yes. That was very, very strange. That guy that was he was 50 when she married her, when he was 50 when he married.
I don't know if that husband had anything to do with her disappearance, but I'll tell you what, I think he's a freaking douchebag for the way he treated her son. I think that guy's a piece of crap. He was lucky to have her, in my opinion.
What struck me is there were similarities between his trying to come up with scenarios and explanations that reminded me of the stepfather of one of the guys in the Memphis 3 case. Remember, there's one guy that was really weird in that. He was the stepfather, and at one point he was being looked at as being a very suspicious. I wish Travis was with us, because he'd know the guy's name off by heart.
Right.
Because he's followed that case, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. But I'm not. I do know that there was a dad who got into some stuff or whatever in that case, and it ended up helping break the case when it happened. When he did something, there was something he did that it ended up helping break the case. So Terry Hobbs, Sharon says. So maybe that's who it is.
Right.
Oh, that might be the woman who got. That might be the name of the woman who was kidnapped, actually.
Right. Yeah. Right. Yeah. I'm going to say that name doesn't ring a bell.
Right.
As being the way. Anyway, I think we've kept you long enough for now.
Yeah, I got a video that's about to finish processing here, anyways. So.
Oh well, that entertained you for an hour or so.
Well, anyways, folks, I'm going to be uploading this one. This is the Charles Boswell, folks. Please go over and give him a donation. Like he said, no donation is too small. Even if you guys want, even if a bunch of you wanted to go out and be smart asses and donate $1, well, hey, look, you get the chance to be a smart ass, and if say 50 of you do it, he gets $50 for his campaign. But like I said, he says no donation is too small. He's obviously he's got to compete with Chad Chronister, who's incumbent, and the guy has access to campaign funds. So it's just, we want to help level the playing field for Charles, because I'll tell you, folks, I like Charles's brand of justice a lot better than I like Chad's. Mm-hmm. And I think the people of Hillsborough County, if they're interested in the same things I am, they probably want Charles Boswell instead of Chad Chronister, and I'm looking to hopefully convince them of that. So that's what that video is doing. As soon as I'm done uploading that, I will get the next Daniel Holtzclaw video uploaded for about 2 hours from now. 2 hours and 8 minutes.
Excellent. Mark Byers, Lil Barb, came up with the answer of the stepfather of one of the accused in the Memphis 3 case, and it was a Mark Byers, and he was weird, totally weird, and that's what the 50-year-old husband reminded me of. Very, very strange how he was making all sorts of strange comments, which, well, you know, very, very odd. Anyway, have a good weekend, dude. You deserve it. Put your feet up. Relax. Have a wee glass.
A wee dram.
And as I say, if I'm not doing anything before Tuesday, I will be doing on Tuesday night another chat with Peter Wood from Shetland, who was on with me a fortnight ago, and a special guest, a very, 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 very close friend of mine. So anyway, that's to look forward to. And as I say, it's one of these things that in a bizarre way, there's no harm in doing, something completely different from the point of view of discussing music with people, because again, it's amazing how you get to know if somebody has or hasn't heard of Making a Murderer.
Right.
The fact they're asking me, how come you've got this channel with 1,200 people, which has nothing to do with music? Well, it's a long story, but here's what it's all about. And
Right.
it's one of the ways of getting people who ordinarily wouldn't know anything at all about it. But what was really interesting was that as soon as I mentioned it to a young lad in his 20s, oh yes, he'd heard of Making a Murderer, he'd watched it.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. Well, the younger generation will have, yes.
Yes.
They all have Netflix on their phone and smart tablet
and
TV and so yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So anyway, I think you know the routine by now, dude.
Yeah. That's bye for me.
And it's goodbye from him.
Yeah.
And if you haven't done so already,
please hit subscribe.
and we'll see you later, guys. Thank you very much for tuning in.